Cheat code. Support strategist. By Clouds. Mahen the Clouds not coming down. On AO3. Chapter 25. Strength. On the one hand, Izuku probably shouldn't have snuck out of the house at dawn to get to UA early and work on the analysis packets for the hero course. On the other, Mei was already in the lab when he arrived, so it couldn't be too bad. Making up for lost time? Izuku laughed when he saw her. If you missed inventing so much, you should have taken up my offer yesterday. Oh, shut up, Izuku. Mei swatted at him, but Izuku simply grinned and sidestepped as she grumbled. It's not like breaking in when security was down for improvements would even be a challenge anyways. Izuku raised an eyebrow. Are you saying you want to break in another day? Maybe test their defenses? Mei's eyes widened. Do you think Nezu would give us permission? I can make so many babies for it, and you could practice your hacking, and can you ask him? Maybe after the sports festival, Izuku laughed. But don't you still have to tune your support items for that? And we both still have to help Shinso get ready. Is that why you're here so early? Mei asked. Preparing for the sports festival? Oh, no. Izuku rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. I couldn't sleep. Mei looked at him with pity and a level of understanding that made Izuku feel slightly guilty. Me neither. Nightmares? Izuku sighed and nodded. If I had, well, I wanted to come in and maybe get alleviated packet done for each student. If they had them a few days ago, they still wouldn't have had time to implicate your suggestions, Mei interrupted. You know that, right? I know, but Izuku groaned in frustration. But I just can't help but wonder. If maybe their support items were better, then maybe they wouldn't have had to go through that? Mei finished. It threw Izuku for a loop, but for the first time since he arrived, he actually looked at the invention she was currently working on. It was something like a taser, but didn't have a power source, meaning it was most likely designed for someone with an electricity quirk, one that the user couldn't consistently direct or control. Izuku saw a stack of blueprints under that one, and he guessed that if he looked through them, he'd see one for most members of 1A and maybe some of 1B as well. You couldn't sleep either? I just had to make sure that they have the best babies they can get. Mei said it like that was all there was to it. But even though he really hadn't known her for long, Izuku could tell she was using plagiarism to hide the tactic mess of emotion underneath. Isn't that what a support engineer does? Give a hero their best chance, they both said together, then ended up laughing. We're a mess, aren't we? Mei asked. Yeah, a little, Izuku said. But where's the fun without chaos? I'd be in my workroom if you need me. I still have that blanket if you need it. Izuku felt slightly hot and figured it was from the lack of good sleep. Mei nodded and turned back to her newest baby. It probably won't do much good, but thanks. Izuku nodded and left towards the room when Mei spoke again. Thank you, she said softly. I don't know what I'll do without you, Izuku. Izuku smiled softly. Me neither. He left his door cracked open, and they spent the time before their classmates arrived in complainable silence, working on their own projects. Shoto sat in the back row, half listening to his classmates talk about the USJ attack, while mostly lost in his own thought. When the villains had shown up, he had mostly been just annoyed. Was that the right word? But it was expected, wasn't it? Villains attacked heroes. It's what they did. It made sense. What didn't make sense was the mysterious third party that had seemingly intent on helping them. Shoto wasn't the only one curious either. If his classmates before class conversations were any indication. It was kind of freaky, honestly. Ojo told Hagakure, who seemed to be hanging in on his every word. It was like the building came alive all of a sudden, and the fire was on my side. Every time I started going in the wrong direction, it would block my path, and it would catch any villains trying to sneak up on me before they even had a chance. It was creepy, but in a cool kind of way, if that makes sense. Cheat code is a force of the darkness, Tokoyami said seriously. I cannot describe my experience in any other words than that, as it was if a malevolent supernatural entity was haunting the rain itself and bending it to their will. Shut up about that fucking coward! Bakugo exploded and glared at everyone. If this cheat code fucker really wanted to help, he should have had shown up in person rather than hide behind a microphone like a scared little sheep. And he should have let us destroy that damn villain. Come on, Bakugo, you gotta admit, it was kind of manly how he protected us like that. Kirishima hits his fists together with a grin. I want to meet him. And that was the other weird thing, wasn't it? Everyone else who had ended up caught in the zones had said that the building kept fighting them until the very end unless they headed towards the entrance. But Chikud was allowed Shoto to get through to save Aizawa. Why him? Why not Kirishima, who was abruptly kinder and likely more to listen? Was it because Shoto had more powerful quirk? But Bakugo was powerful enough to fight as well. So if it was just about power, he should have been allowed to reach the plaza as well. If it was about effectiveness, rescuing, wouldn't Uraraka been a better fit? She wanted to be a rescue hero, and she could have floated Aizawa out of there. So what made Shoto different? Why choose him out of all his classmates? Apparently, that was a question for another day because Aizawa chose that moment to walk in. One of his arms was in a thick cast, and there was a large piece of gas taped beneath his eye. But overall, he seemed a lot less injured than Todoroki had expected. He flinched as the class erupted into loud cheers. Aizawa-sensei, you're all right, Ashido exclaimed loudly. We were so worried when we saw Todoroki leading you out. It's fine, Aizawa interrupted. It would have been a lot worse if the villain's full attention had been on me, or if Shigaraki had managed to hit me with his quirk. But, as it was, the old lady was able to heal most of it. Is 13 Sensei? Uraraka asked, worried. They're still in recovery, Aizawa said. Let that be a lesson to you to always be aware of your surroundings. Quirks are dangerous, even and especially your own. Always expect someone to use every weakness against you. You got lucky this time. The thugs the League of Villains sent were low level, and cheat code protected most of you from the inner circle. But when you get onto the streets, you're going to meet villains who are prepared to do whatever it takes to kill you. If you're not prepared for that, leave now. Nobody left. Not that Shoto was surprised. It probably hadn't really hit them yet. He supposed Shoto didn't leave either. His father could have killed him hundreds of times over if he wasn't so worried about losing his masterpiece. So, Shoto was used to the threat of death. Not to mention, the threat of death would become much more real if he would refuse to be a hero. Speaking of cheat code, Sue asked tentatively, who is he? Aizawa sighed and muttered something that sounded like problem child before addressing the class. He's an analyst. Kaminari and Ashido tried to interrupt, probably to wince and beg for more information, but Aizawa silenced them with a glare, and Todoroki couldn't help but notice that he didn't activate his quirk like he normally would have, so he must have not completely healed yet. He is an analyst, and that's all the information you will be getting. The UA staff has decided to keep his identity under wraps to protect him from now. Since I think you can understand why we wouldn't want villains getting their hands on him. So, no, I will not be telling you who he is. Maybe he'll tell you himself eventually. But, until then, you'll have to deal with your curiosity. However, Aizawa used his good arm to pull a stack of papers from his capture weapon. He did stupidly decide to overreact and give you all these. Come up when I call your name. The room instantly dissolved into whispers as Aizawa called up Ayumamu and handed him a few papers. He read through them and swore softly in French as the other members of the class were called. When Shoto's name was called, he received a packet of 2 papers stapled together. The first section was a brief description of his quirk, while the sections gave bullet lists of strengths and weaknesses and suggestions for improvements. At the end was imprinted sticker of some kind of logo and Chicode's name. These are abbreviated analysis of your quirks and fighting styles. Aizawa explained, once all the packets had been handed out. You'll apparently be receiving full versions near the end of the semester, once Chicode has more chance to see you in action. He went to Nezu early this morning, however, and insisted we give you these. Use them wisely. Analysis can be a hero's greatest ally, or greatest enemy, depending on how you treat them. Whoa, dude! Sero yelled. These are awesome! There's more where this came from? That's super cool! More like super freaky, Mineta complained. How does this guy even know so much about us? The class looked towards Aizawa for answers, only to find that he had already cocooned himself inside his sleeping bag and was slumped against the wall, asleep. So he'd be absolutely zero help. Shoto looked more closely at his packet and frowned as he read. Strengths. Ice power, ice control. Strategy thinking? Question mark. Weakness? Left side. Is left open to attack. Danger of hypothermia. Suggestion. Use fire half of Quirk. The analysis only had part of the picture, but that didn't make Shoto feel any less annoyed at yet another person telling him to use his fire. He didn't have to listen to someone. Shoto froze. He decided to trust Chicode in this part because Endeavor wouldn't have. Ignoring his advice completely would be exactly what Endeavor would do. But he still couldn't use his fire. There was a loud explosion, and Shoto looked to see Bakugo throwing remains of his smoking packet out the window. I don't fucking need this loser to tell me what I already fucking know. I don't have impulsive issues. Aizawa crawled out of his bag, grabbing another packet from his capture weapon and slamming it down on Bakugo's desk. He mentioned you might do that. Be careful with that one. If you explode it, you won't be getting a third. Bakugo reached for the papers, sparks already leaping across his palms, but Aizawa snatched the packet out of his reach. What the fuck, old man? Bakugo. Aizawa said sternly. If you don't want to be a better hero, or a hero at all. Bakugo huffed, but grabbed the papers without setting them on fire and slumped down in his seat, staring at the packet like it had been personally offending him. Aizawa could relate. If only we could actually meet this analysis in person. Aizawa laminately loud. I have a great many questions on how to improve my quirk and functions and... Suit yourself, Jiro shivered. It was freaky enough knowing that he could make the ground collapse beneath us at any moment. My money is him being even scarier in person. What a mad banquet of darkness, Tokoyami murmured. It had already been a long day by the time Hitoshi had reached the gym after school and started stretching. Considering that Midoriya was probably trying to pull Hatsume away from whatever invention she was currently working on, hanging on with the two of them yesterday had been fun. But his foster parents had yelled at him when he had gotten home, accusing him of going out and trying to join a gang despite the fact that he'd tried telling them that he was going out with friends before he left. Too bad they wouldn't actually let him talk to them, or at all. And then all anyone was talking about was the hero course, those lucky students with the perfect quirks and everything laid out for them, without having to fight tooth and nail and convince everyone that he deserved a chance. Even his kidnappers had spent the day focusing on them, which was annoying, even though he really didn't have any right to be angry considering those two had been involved with the attack. At least they didn't think he was a villain. Yet. A slight sound behind him had Hitoshi jumping to his feet and whirling around to see an injured hobo landing at him approvingly. Good situational awareness. So your cheat code's extra credit project? Oh no. Hitoshi froze, and then he realized that This wasn't just any injured hobo. He was talking to Eraserhead. Eraserhead, who knew who he was. Hitoshi forced himself to snap out of his hero worship, or for lack of a better word. Yes, sir. Eraserhead looked at him appraisingly. You're doing physical training? Yes, sir. Hitoshi nodded quickly. I'm mostly focused on speed and flexibility for now, since I don't have enough time to gain a lot of strength before the sports festival, but there'll be time for that later if you get into the hero course. Eraserhead finished. Don't underestimate strength either. You'll be surprised how often it comes in handy. Hisashi's eyes widened. Was Eraserhead really giving him advice? He didn't know what to say. What was someone supposed to say when their favorite hero gave them tips? After a long moment, where Shinso was freaking out, Midoriya burst through the door, his jacket covered in some sort of oil that must have exploded from Hatsume's most recent experiments. I'm sorry, I'm late. Mei-chan, oh, Eraserhead, I didn't know you. Eraserhead interrupted Midoriya's rambling by bowing, and Midoriya instantly turned red and started sputtering. What? Eraserhead, sir, I don't... What? You helped save my students. Eraserhead straightened. Thank you is only logical. Midoriya looked to Hitoshi, helplessly, but he was still reeling from Eraserhead giving him advice. Midoriya turned back to Eraserhead and bowed back. I apologize for not doing more. Eraserhead snorted. I knew you'd be a problem child. I didn't know what else I expected. He turned to leave, but stopped at the door and fixed Hitoshi a look. You have potential. Don't waste it. It's not going to be easy to claim the extra seat in my class. That challenge was apparently what took Hitoshi to snap out of his trance, and he couldn't help smirking slightly. It won't be easy to be a hero either, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to do it. Eraserhead gave him a creepy wide grin and left, allowing the door to swing behind him. When he was sure he was gone, Hitoshi deflated. Midoriya, I think I just met someone even scarier than you are. He ignored Midoriya's sputtering denials as he went back to stretching. He had a sports festival to win after all. Crumbs. I am consuming crumbs. Eraserhead calling Izuku problem child. I love it. I love it. I was so happy. I don't know why I'm so happy with that nickname he gave Izuku. I don't know why, but I am. Okay, so give Tokoyami more lines, okay? I just love doing his voice. It is so fun to do. Just give him more lines, please and thank you. Okay, so I like to headcanon that Bakugo's packet is like way more detailed than everybody else's, considering that, I don't know, Izuku grew up with the guy, So I have a headcanon that, everybody else's packets is like 2-3 pages long. Bakugo's over here with like a 10-page, very detailed packet. And, when Aizawa was like, this, you're gonna get an even more detailed one later on, Bakugo's like, what the fuck? Kind of. So yeah. Sorry if the quality of this video is just a tad bit different. I am very tired. I just woke up. I have work in 30 minutes and I came back from a very long trip. So thank you much for your patience. As always, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds, have a wonderful day or night. Join our community server, link is in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.